So we're going to make a fairy garden. And in my opinion, every proper fairy garden needs a fairy house. So we're going to start with the house. And we're going to use a log. To get the size of the logs, I used a 2-liter soda bottle and whatever was about that diameter. I had some nice person I know give it some nice straight cuts, and this one has some different textures, and you can work with different shapes, but basically this is going to be our fairy house. Now to make it into a house we need a door, so that's the first thing we'll be doing, is making our door. So you want to start with a clean work surface, and we're going to make the door out of polymer clay, the kind that you bake. This is Sculpey. They also have Fimo or Fimo clay. It stays soft until you bake it, so you can reuse it over and over again. And we'll be using some white, some black. I have a couple of shades of brown that we'll be using, maybe some yellow, and possibly some green. So these are the colors of the Sculpey clay we'll be using. And because we're on a budget and we don't normally deal in Sculpey clay, we don't have the fancy tools, so we'll be using a orange stick, a popsicle stick, a plastic knife, and then round objects for rolling. For little rolls I have a round pencil, and this just came out of the bathroom, so we don't need fancy tools to do this. So we're going to be starting with the door, and I'd like to use a couple of shades of brown. Now with this type of clay you have to what they call condition it, and basically that's just warm it up enough to make it soft and pliable so you can work with it. And I'm going to have equal parts this brown and equal parts this brown. So this is a what ounce container? It's about a 2.4 ounce, and it comes in like 4 bricks. So we'll be using about a brick each. So what is that, like 1 ounce of polymer clay for the door. So we're going to get it nice and pliable. And then to give it a little bit fancier look, we're going to make a little bit of a wood grain. I've seen some people get really extremely fancy and awesome with this. We're just going to do a simple. So you roll it out a little bit. This is, I think they call these logs. And you put them together. Actually, I'll make them thinner. And twist them. And then some people use a knife, just tear it apart, twist it again. We're just combining the two colors, but you don't want to over mix it. And you see we have some big stripes here. I suppose if you've got a smaller roll, and did the same thing. So people can get really awesome at this as far as getting the colors mixed. I'm just doing a quick mix to get a little bit of a pattern in our door. So that's all I've done. And now we're going to roll it into a flat shape. And so I'll start with a ball. See some of the modeling there. And I'm going to take my rolling pin, aka hair product, make sure you get any debris out. And I'm going to make this fairly thin, and then the size will be based on the size of your house, or in this case log. So we don't want to keep it fairly in proportion. So here's my log, here's my door, my house, my door. Looks good to me. So that's about the right size. And then I just want to cut it. Excuse me. And again, any kind of sharp cutting tool. I'm going to make a flat bottom. And they have really cool tools for this, but I'm not that fancy. And we're going to round the door. And then come in a little bit so it's almost circular at the bottom, instead of just a standard door. Okay. And I'm not a perfectionist, so that's okay with me. Now we're going to give it some scoring marks so it will look like it has some wood. I'm just checking the pattern. I like this side. So I could probably take anything that will make a mark, and I'm going to push it into the clay. I don't want to push all the way through. So this is creating our planks. This one went through, it's a little thin, so I have to make sure that I stick this back together. I'm actually gonna lay it on top a little bit. And then push that mark in again. Okay, so that's basically the door. Now we're going to make the door surround, or the door frame, by using just, let's see, I'm guesstimating about that much black, and we'll take some of this leftover wood type, about that much, and then mostly white, because we're going to create a stone outline for the door. So again, you have to get it warmed up a little bit so you can work with it. I'm going to put this to the side. And I think I have too much brown. So I'm going to create some rolls or snakes or stretchy pieces, whatever you want to call them. I've never actually tried this before. It's all in my mind that it works. So cross your fingers. Let's see. Some twist action going on there. And I probably should have made thinner black and brown, but I think this will give us the idea. So basically that's the look I want, mostly white. And then I'm going to come around. I want a pretty thin surround. Again, just doing it with my fingers. It's a little bit like candy cane. Okay, so now I'm going to cut off the excess. And now I'm going to smush it together, just gently by smashing it down. And then it's just a little bit thicker than the door. This is, I don't know, 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, something like that. And now again, we're just going to make stone cuts here. I'm no clay expert. I've seen amazing things done with this clay. We're just going to do a quick idea of a door. Okay, and then we just need a little bit of black. Tiny little ball for our door handle, which I think will be a knob. Very sized doorknob. And then we're going to get really fancy now, because I saw somebody do this and it was awesome. And of course they did it very elaborate. I'm going to make little hinges. Again, you can tell I'm not a perfectionist. The stone is a little bit busy. It probably would have been nicer to have more of a gray tone. But there's our fairy door. Now, when things, the really good people have special knives that scoop up this stuff to keep it from warping. I'm just using a kitchen spatula to work under here and lift it off. Now, this goes in the oven to bake, to become hardened, but this is flat, and you can see we have a roundhouse. So I tried different ways using aluminum foil to kind of get the rounding, but each piece, each house is different. So in this case, we're going to try putting it directly on the wood and baking it like this. So I'm going to find my front door, which I guess is right here. And that way it will bake exactly in the shape that we want. Okay, so there will be my front door. Now I'm going to set that aside. I decided that was a little bit too big, so I'm going to cut it down. So as you can obviously see, this clay is very forgiving. You can use it over and over until you bake it. It's not going to harden. Now we're going to make a little window. I'm going to take the brown and brown that I had, work that together a little bit. We're blending the colors a little too much, but that's okay. And then we're going to roll thin pieces. Now we're going to make a little window. So the window in a fairy house, I would imagine, would be made out of twigs, logs, branches. So that's what we're going for. And because we don't know if the fairies are home, but even if they're not, I'm sure they have a fire going or some type of lighting inside. So it'll be bright inside. So we're going to create a little bit of a window. So now I'm going to make it square. Okay, so there is the background of my window. So I'm going to have it crossed in the middle. So I'm going to take this and make it fairly semi-proportional. So this will be my first branch, and I'm going to twist it. And by twisting it, we're roughly, very roughly, simulating a branch. So I'm going to have a branch this way, and then about the same thickness. I'm going to twist and twist and twist, and have a branch this way. And of course, smush them in the middle. And now the outside. So you can see this doesn't take very much of this clay at all, because I'm making skinny little snakes to do this. Here, and just twist. It doesn't even have to have little curlicues in the twisting, just enough to give it kind of some texture and less perfect. I'm going to smush this right up on the yellow, because I don't want the yellow to show. You need some kind of soft edge tool to kind of smash things together. Smooth things a little bit, that way they won't come apart when you're baking. And I need a little bit more, because nature doesn't have perfect edges, right? And fairy houses are all about nature. So I'm going to take just a wee bit of green, make some leaves. And all you do is just make a little shape, pinch it together, and attach it. Now I really have no idea how solid these will be after baking, but we're going to give it a try. I would think the more we smush it, the less chance of it breaking will be. I'll do one more. So you can get as detailed as you want. We're working on a small scale. For me, small is hard to see. But there we go. Here's our window. Now, I need to know where I'm going to place it in relation to the door. You can see I haven't got this all figured out. Maybe if I just lay it someplace else, it will give me the same curve. And then I can glue it on there. And we're going to put this in the oven. It's very thin, so I'm going to put it in for about 15 minutes to make it hard. And I'm actually going to put it on a baking sheet on the log, because the log's not going to flame up at 275 degrees. So I'm going to put it on a baking sheet in the oven, just like that, and we'll see how it goes. 15 minutes, 275 degrees. Okay, the second step in building our fairy house is a rooftop lid. So my inspiration for this whole fairy house was a 7-Up bottle, a 2-liter soda bottle, that I got the idea from somebody who put cement in it for YouTube. So I've already done this part, so I'll have to recreate what the bottle looked like, but you know what it looks like. So I'll just simulate what I've done. by using the top of the 7-Up bottle, which is why these were that size. Now we have our fairy house top, and because it's pliable, it can just wiggle over the irregular shape of the wood. So that will be our house. Now, roof. So to do that, and you can use any size. It doesn't have to be the 2-liter bottle. There's a 1.5-liter bottle, would be for a different size wood, different shapes. There are other sizes of water bottles. There are things you can use besides a water bottle, but that's a different video. This is a more pointy cap. Now all you have to do is, I used an X-Acto knife to cut through here. At the very top it was very hard. I couldn't get through, so I had to come down to about here to saw through, and then you can actually just use scissors once you get the hole going. So that's the first step. You cut up your plastic jar bottle, you get the top. This is my first attempt and it didn't go very well. You can see I can just peel it right off here. I used regular white glue, which kept sliding off of this, and I just used the big pieces of peat moss. Now the moss that you can use, you're not limited by what you can make your roof out of. You could use, for a straw effect, you could use some Excelsior moss. For a greener effect, they have the dyed Spanish moss. In fact, they have this in all different colors. You have the actual, this is reindeer moss, so you could glue bits of that on. So you're really limitless in what you can make your roof out of. I chose from the dollar store these bags of Spanish moss. Now a little bit goes a long way, because when you open the package and start pulling it out, there's really long strings. I tried putting it in the blender, not a good idea. But you can see they're just really long fibers, and they, of course, in the blender get tangled up. So a little goes a long way. So what I found the best way was to use my kitchen scissors, or any scissors, and just start cutting it. That way you're not getting those long unwieldy pieces. And in fact, you can just do it like you're cutting parsley and just go in and chop it up like this. Now, I think it works easier, the finer the better. There's some that actually came from the blender and turned into a fine powder, which that's a different look, but you'd have to really grind it up for that. Again, don't put it into your blender with long pieces. You can do it after you've cut it a while. So these are some already cut pieces, but basically that's what you do. And then as you pick it up, the little pieces will drop to the bottom. So this is your more fine stuff, and then your coarser stuff. Now as I did this one, you can see I have a lot of really fine stuff and then some coarse. So I found the easiest way was to use tacky glue, Eileen's original tacky glue. It's thicker, it sets up quicker, it doesn't slide around like the Elmer's does. So I just cut it out. I'm using wax paper to try to contain my mess. Just squirt this on. At first I tried smearing it and making it even. That just got my fingers sticky mess and didn't even work that well. So by putting it on here and just rolling it and smushing it, and you can see inside maybe that the glue was smushing itself. Using that word a lot. And you can see that the finer fills in, because when it's the coarser stuff, it actually shows through and you can see the green, which could be a good look for something. But by putting the glue straight on the bottle, or on the plastic, just wherever you need it, and then smushing into the fine stuff. Now you could add some coarse stuff outside, and I hate to keep saying smush, but that's the best word I can use to describe. So you can have your house, your roof of your house as neat and tidy and smooth as you'd like, or you can have it a bit hairier. You can come afterwards if it's too hairy and just trim it up. Or you can put some, really wild pieces on it. So it's just a matter of personal taste, what you want to see your fairy house in, and that's the first step of creating the roof. Then the next thing I did was take the glue and go around the base with maybe a little bit of the thicker stuff and just push it in like this. And that got the edges covered. And you can see now I have an edge to my plastic, so the plastic's not showing. And it almost filled in this, but we're going to do a little bit something different on the top here. So you just want to get it to this point, shake all the loose, and set it somewhere and let the glue set up. I would suggest overnight. So we'll just put that aside. And now that's my oven going off, so that means the door and window are cooked. Okay, for this next step, you can see I've got my glue gun heating up, and we're going to be using a pine cone. And we're going to make a top for our roof out of pine cones. Now this again was my first attempt. Learned a few things about how I want to do that. So the first thing is we're going to make it out of these. And the only way I can figure out to get them off is to actually pull them off like this, like you're peeling some kind of vegetable. So you just pull them off, and we'll be using the larger size, and some of them will break. So they've got a really cool shape. You can use this side or this side, almost like moth wings there. And there's a lot of things you can use these separate pine cone leaves, if you will, to decorate your house or your fairy garden with. So I'm going to be taking the larger ones and making a cap for the hole in our little house here. And I'm going to glue them on individually, just around like this. Again, there are all kinds of things you can top your house with. You can just fill it in with moss. You can, I don't know, take off the top of a pine cone and plop that in there. So again, the possibilities are endless. It's entirely up to the imagination. I'm going to fill in with the littler ones. And this is not an exact science, so just play. That's what this is about, is just playing, being playful. So the next thing is to put a cap on this. So to make this little acorn type lid for this, we take again the Fimo clay, Fimo, Sculpey, whatever, and you make a little log. This is the leftover from the door. So you make a little skinny marshmallow shape, and you take a object with a point and you just go around like this to establish the hole, which you can then put your finger inside and pinch and flatten and pinch and flatten. And then this part we're going to roll very carefully. So I'm going to fit it on, mold it, and then carefully remove it, place it on a tray, and put this into the oven again. Door and the window are finished. The wood's still pretty warm, and you have to remember, now where was it? Because because we want to glue it on in the same spot because that's where it was molded to. You can see it's still cooling, but it's pretty hard now. Did I have it? I think it was right here. So I'm going to use the hot glue. So the lid's gonna fit on here, so I want it a little bit lower. And we'll attach the cap or lid. And of course you can glue that on. I'll put my topper when it comes out of the oven. And there is our fairy house for our fairy garden. Now the next step is the fairy garden. There you go. Thanks for watching. And remember, use your imagination. Let it soar.